Hi, I'm Tyler Foltz. I'm a nuclear engineer with a little over 10 years of experience in the nuclear power industry. From engineering to operations to emergency response to large capital projects. I don't claim to know everything nuclear, but I would like to take the opportunity to share a little bit of knowledge. If you have any suggestions of movies, TV shows, video games, articles, please let me know in the comments below. If you like the video, please help the channel out by pressing the like button and go ahead and subscribe to be notified of future videos. If you didn't like the video, please let me know what I can do better. I'm still learning this whole YouTube thing. Today, I'm going to be looking at Command and Conquer Generals, specifically the Chinese Nuke General, at this one lore video that Jethiled has made. He does a really good job with these lore videos. And Command and Conquer Generals is a real-time strategy video game where you build a base and you're supposed to destroy the enemy base. China is one of the factions, as well as the US, and this fictional organization called the Global Liberation Army, which is just a terrorist organization. This game came out shortly after 9/11. With that, let's take a look.
And probably the most delirious of the three, as it pertained to nukes, was General C&C Tao.
It looks like a nuclear winter this year, General.
Xingxi Tao. I don't actually know Chinese, but it's a misspelling of another Chinese phrase, which, if Google is to believe, translates to green rocks. So here's another example of bringing in green rocks as a whole nuclear thing. A bit more of a subtle joke, but uranium in its natural state is yellow. It's also known as yellow cake uranium when it's raw.
General Tao was the PLA's leading expert on nuclear technology. He was stationed at Base Ox in Chengdu, China. At least, that's where his background claims he was stationed. There is a discrepancy with this bit of info, as the official general's map shows him being stationed somewhere in Tibet. This icon could just represent the location of his primary stronghold, though, which I'll provide more detail.
Like that he points out the different in location.
Reading from his biography, General Singh gets what he wants at any cost. Impatient to a fault, General Singh relies heavily on nuclear technology on the battlefield. Unfortunately, there have been several terrible accidents. While General Singh was the responsible officer during the Mudanjiang disaster of 2007.
This event here, which is presumably some sort of nuclear disaster, is completely fictional. One thing I forgot to mention is Command and Conquer Generals takes place in an alternate universe that diverged from our timeline, I believe, around 2003.
His considerable talents saved his career. General Singh believes such trials and errors are part of the development process. His divisions are beginning to see the results of his convictions, as a prototype of an advanced nuclear reactor has produced better results.
Advanced nuclear reactor. Okay, what I see here is a couple of smokestacks. Appears to be a cooling tower of some sort, a shack with two smokestacks, and a tiny electrical grid. Not sure where the reactor is. There's no containment building or anything that typically looks like a nuclear reactor here.
Programs to develop tactical nukes and to promote stability in radioactive isotopes are producing better safety records, which will be well received by his troops. Due to Tao's affinity for all things nuclear, he, and those one-star generals who served under him, were able to construct nuke cannons from the war factory, without first having to put.
Interesting design. I like that it has the stabilizers that you see on many large artillery pieces. I'm by no means an expert in artillery, but I do believe this is a reference to one type of cannon that was thought of during the Cold War.
In a special requisition for them. When calling in an H-6 bomber to carpet bomb a target location, the bomber would drop tactical nuclear warheads. These warheads were...
Okay. We got the micro mushroom clouds again, bombed in a row.
explode in a small but intense nuclear explosion. These bombs caused widespread damage and
Again, very small explosions for a nuclear weapon. And so there's no green glow this time, despite the name thing. Now we got orange clouds. Both equally unrealistic, but it's an interesting change. I haven't seen that before.
behind clouds of radiation that could kill any survivors of the initial bombing run.
Soon your base will glow like the sun.
As mentioned in his biography, one of Tao's major achievements was the creation of an advanced nuclear reactor, which produced more power compared to its standard counterpart.
It's the
It looked a
reactor
little
again.
different too, with extra pipes and smokestacks attached to the structure. The reactor could be set to overcharge to provide more power to Tao's base,
Is it damaging itself by overcharging?
but just like the standard reactor, overcharging the advanced one caused damage to it over time, and failing to shut it off resulted in the reactor's destruction.
Okay. Another mini nuclear explosion. Yeah, overcharging a nuclear reactor, causing it to blow up. That's not a thing in any power reactor ever. There's no overcharge function. The units are designed to operate pretty much at steady state 100% power during the entire fuel cycle. There's no going over 100%. It's a thermal limit for a reason. And if you were to overpower it, you would get to a point where a reactor safety system would result in an automatic shutdown. And that's with zero operator human input action whatsoever. The reactor would just shut itself down. It would not run away, and it certainly would not blow up in a mini nuclear explosion and leave behind those silly orange clouds of radiation. It's not what radiation looks like. It's invisible.
Oh, I see your power is down, General. Should I send you some nuclear energy?
Love his smack talk.
Unlike other PLA generals, who had to specifically purchase nuclear upgrades for their Battlemaster and Overlords, Tao's were automatically built with these features in mind. This meant his tanks rolled off the assembly line packing more firepower thanks to their uranium shells, and they could move across.
Uranium shells. Depleted uranium is used as a shell in both in weapons and armor. One of the most famous examples is the A-10 Warthog ground attack aircraft. It has a 30mm autocannon, and its shells can actually shred the armor of tanks. Depleted uranium is used because it's a really hard material that's designed to penetrate armor. Does not leak radiation as depicted in the game. It's called depleted for a reason.
Battlefield faster due to their nuclear engines. The tank's shells even left behind clouds of radiation that were quite deadly to infantry.
To my knowledge, there's no such dirty bomb in a tank shell form, does not exist.
Battlemasters in Tao's arsenal specifically had a modified turret to reflect these nuclear modifications. If the tanks were destroyed, they would explode violently, damaging any friendly units and structures around them.
Nuclear-powered tanks, this is just like the thing in Fallout. I don't believe any nuclear-powered tanks exist. There are nuclear-powered naval vessels, such as aircraft carriers, battle cruisers, and submarines, but don't believe there's any nuclear-powered tank or ground vehicle. But I can say for certain they would not explode in a mini nuclear explosion, mushroom cloud sort of phenomenon that you see here.
Leaving behind a cloud of radiation. Tao was able to figure out a solution to this issue, though, by providing his tanks with a cleaner nuclear fuel through an upgrade called isotope stability. This upgrade prevented the damage
See this
caused by
again.
his exploding nuclear.
So this guy, his nuclear specialty is enable his vehicles to explode like they would in reality and not leave any nuclear fallout. That is the exception to the rule in this universe. That's funny.
Those one-star commanders who were under Tao's direction could request rank 1 emergency repair crews to fix any damaged vehicles on the battlefield.
Drone repair.
If Tao captured a reinforcement pad, it would periodically receive paradropped nuclear battlemaster tanks. MiG and Helix aircraft in Tao's arsenal were more expensive to
You would need a really good parachute to parachute anything with a nuclear reactor, even a small modular reactor. These things weigh in the excess of 100 tons. So you're gonna need a lot bigger parachutes than what's depicted in that scene.
train. They could be equipped with unique nuclear modifications, though. For the MiG, its missiles would leave behind a small cloud of radiation at the target location. These missiles could be replaced with tactical warheads from the nuclear missile silo, giving the aircraft the designation.
This I'm actually not sure about. If MiG aircraft can actually be equipped with tactical nukes. Usually I think of most of them as bomber class aircraft, though they certainly wouldn't look like the little tiny mushroom clouds that you'd see. Tactical nukes are actually quite powerful. They would do a lot more damage than what's seen on this screen.
No, tactical nuke MiG. The nuclear missiles of these MiGs were excellent at taking out enemy ground vehicles due to their increased explosive yield. They weren't as effective against enemy base structures, however, since the nuclear missiles couldn't generate a firestorm to burn them down after the initial strike.
Tactical nukes being less powerful than a napalm or fire-based weapon. Nah. Tactical nukes would still be more powerful.
As for the Helix transport helicopter, the standard napalm bomb would be replaced with a nuclear bomb.
The nuclear bomb is ready.
Like other
Don't know of any helicopter drop nuclear weapons. You would not want to hover directly above one, especially if it's one powerful enough to cause a mushroom cloud. It would not end well for the chopper. It would just crash.
weapons, it left behind a cloud of radiation after exploding on the target location. The Helix would continue dropping these bombs until the target was destroyed, and its pilots were ordered to stop.
Oh, maybe you are having a meltdown, huh?
Other unique features of Tao's arsenal included cheaper nuclear missile silos, which helped him get this superweapon constructed before an opposing general built their own. With the exception of the hacker, all infantry were more expensive for him to recruit and train. This makes sense when one considers the propensity for collateral damage to occur, given the glowing nature of Tao's arsenal.
That is probably the one thing that's actually somewhat realistic. There is a stipend for people, military personnel who are employed in the nuclear sector of, say, the Navy, the Army, whichever division there is. So I can understand his infantry being more expensive to recruit.
Hello, the wonderful.
This guy's voice is hilarious.
If any general wished to face off against Tao, they would have to fight on his terms. This meant assaulting his nuclear stronghold, which was located in either Tibet, according to the general's map, or near Chengdu, according to his background info.
Very close range for an artillery weapon. And of course, the little mushroom clouds, yet again.
Don't worry, General. The warheads are on their way.
That was a bigger one.
Stronghold was most notable for the dry riverbed that stretched from the west side of the map to the east side. The river actually splits near the middle of the map, with the second distributary navigating south. The fork of the river was contaminated with radiation, so it was best for troops to avoid crossing the thing.
Not sure why the contaminants are clustered in one area. Either way, you wouldn't see any orange. You wouldn't see any orange clouds in a contaminated river, but it would be just flow with the river. It would go whichever direction it goes.
Overall, the region that encompassed Tao's stronghold could be split into 4 quadrants. In the southwest quadrant was an area of flat land where an opposing general could establish their base and make use of a nearby supply dock. To the southeast of this base were 2 oil derricks, which could be captured and used to provide additional funding for the opposing general. Just slightly north of the base was another supply dock. Further north of that dock is a large hill that has an additional supply dock and oil derrick at the top of it.
Now he's just telling you how to beat him if you're playing the game.
Northeast of the base was a forest where Tao typically sent his forces through in order to try and destroy the opposing general's base.
You cannot stand against my might, General.
Not much is in the southeast quadrant of the map, just a large barren hill and another oil derrick that is directly east of the opposing general's base. Between the northwest and northeast quadrants is an abandoned and irradiated village.
Do you like my village, General? Please, make yourself at home.
Within this village was an oil refinery, which, when captured, would reduce the cost of vehicle production. There was also an
Makes me wonder if the emissions from all the oil industry in this area, there was something wrong there, because there is a potential with oil and gas. They do cause a lot of emissions, and interesting backstory and lore that that might be what's actually contaminated it.
supply dock located in the middle of the village. In the northwest quadrant was Tao's stronghold, which was situated at the base of a large barren hill. There were two large cooling towers amongst the various defensive.
Two cooling towers. What are they cooling? I don't see any reactor building or anything like that. They're just two towers, a catwalk, and some just little shack underneath it. Maybe we'll explain.
The stronghold's perimeter. This quadrant had not one, but 3 nuclear missile silos, with a nuclear bunker right next to each one, housing additional warheads. It was vital that the opposing general destroy these silos, or Tao would use them to quickly reduce their base to dust.
Coming to inspect the nukes, General? You can look, but don't touch.
In the northeast quadrant of the map is an extension to Tao's base with 2 more cooling towers and a couple more nuclear missile silos and bunkers.
Again, cooling towers, no reactors. You don't need cooling. You wouldn't need cooling towers to cool a missile base or bunker or anything like that. There's no real heat source. It's just a rocket base. It'd be no different. It would be like saying, did NASA need cooling towers for Cape Canaveral? And I see radioactive material symbols on those cooling towers. Cooling towers do not produce radiation at all. Their only waste product would be water. All cooling towers are really used for is to cool the condenser in the secondary loop of a large power plant. Not necessarily nuclear plants. There are several coal and gas plants that use these hyperbolic shaped cooling towers to cool their secondary loop. Conversely, there are several nuclear plants, including the plant that I worked at in South Texas, that instead of using using cooling towers, used a 100,000 acre lake, a reservoir, as our cooling source for our condenser. It would appear they just threw cooling towers in his base because they're associated with things that are nuclear.
A war factory and barracks for Tao to recruit and produce new units. As previously mentioned, it was imperative that an opposing general destroy Tao's nuclear missiles before they were ready to launch. These missiles would be brought online one at a time and used to destroy the opposing general's base.
Oh, look, I have a nuke all ready for you. Oh, 2 nukes. Oh, I am pleased. 3 nukes. Oh, that is 3 times the fun.
Got to admire his passion.
4 nukes. Incredible. 5 nukes. Maybe you want me to send you a clean pair of shorts now, huh?
Destroying any of Tao's nuclear missiles would only serve to anger him.
No! My warheads!
So this is an interesting picture. Looks like these bombers use some type of airburst weapon that isn't nuclear, a thermobaric weapon of some sort. And yet it's showing the similar mushroom cloud effect on the nuclear missile silo blowing up. Nuclear weapons actually have to be armed for it to detonate, like a nuclear bomb. And this was just a silo, a launcher. For all we know, warheads might not have actually been even loaded, let alone armed in this scenario.
Beautiful warheads. You will pay, General.
Tao was completely unimpressed with any other superweapons that the opposing general might construct to be used against him.
You call that a super weapon, General? It breaks like a toy.
Tao had nothing to say about any of the commandos like Colonel Burton, Black Lotus, or Jarman Kill. However, he would chastise the enemy general for constructing buildings like the Strategy Center, Black Market, and Propaganda Center.
A strategy center? What strategy could you possibly devise to fight me? The black market won't sell you anything powerful enough to stop me, General. Your propaganda will not turn anyone against my nuclear power, General.
Gotta love the reference. Yeah. Gotta have propaganda for, not against nuclear power, right? Oh, this guy's hilarious.
Destroying Tao's command center would cause him to freak out over its loss.
He had the little radioactive material icon on his command center. I'm sure that was just his mark, though.
My command center? No! You won't lose command.
Okay, his command center did not leave any fallout, but it looks like one of the advanced reactors next to him did. Why not? If they're gonna say fallout associated with everything nuclear, they should have said a nuclear command center. Just go all in. You pretty much hit everything else.
I won't.
If the opposing general managed to defeat Tao, then they'd have to go up against the PLA's third prominent general.
All right, that's the end of the Chinese Nuke General for this portion of this guy's video. Really check him out. Link is again in the description. He does a lot of lore videos if you're interested in hearing more about the Command and Conquer universe. There, as far as their depiction, I love their depiction of General Dao. He's very goofy, very in typical Command and Conquer fashion, likes to smack talk when you play against him and you start dismantling his base. This one had a lot use of orange glow. There was no green glow other than the subtle reference with his name, which I thought was interesting because the green glow has been a staple throughout a lot of the Command and Conquer franchise. Now the orange stuff is no more realistic, but it's still very entertaining take on them. I like this video, and the game's a lot of fun too. Recommend you check that out. But yeah, with that, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.